Hey guys, we're going to continue reading The Orange Outlaw. Today we're going to read chapter 5. Remember in chapter 4, Dink and his friends saw the alleyway in which there was the dumpster, and they learned that the balconies were only starting on the 3rd floor. So in their minds, they're thinking that nobody could have climbed up the balconies. But then they met Miss Booker, and she informed them that she could climb that at one point in time in her life because she was in a circus act. And then you also learned that the alleyway was blocked by a trailer from the block party. So we are going to read chapter 5 today. In chapter 5, I want you to focus on these questions. I want you to know why Uncle Warren thinks Miss Cornelius is a bad witness. I want you to think about what the white splotches are in the kitchen. And then I want you to think about all the characters that are possible and who you think might have committed the crime and why. And these are just inferences based on what you're hearing and those kinds of things. And it's okay if you get it wrong. This is just a prediction. But I want you to think of all of the characters. I want you to think of Roger, our front desk person or thing, Miss Booker, okay, Miss Cornelius, and then maybe it's none of those. Maybe you don't think it's any of those and it's somebody else. But I want you to think about those things because you will have to answer questions on that one. Okay, let's read chapter 5. When the kids stepped out the elevator, Uncle Warren was waiting in the hallway. "Thank you for leaving me a note, but it's past your bedtime." "Is the detective still here?" Dink asked. "No, he left a few minutes ago," his uncle said. "He checked for fingerprints and took samples of the orange peels and juice." They walked into the kitchen. The orange peels were gone, but the floor was still sticky. Patches of white fingerprint powder made blotches on the counter and the kitchen table. The empty fruit bowl was in the sink. "Do you know Miss Cornelius?" Dink asked his uncle. Uncle Warren smiled. "A lot of people know Corinne Cornelius," he said. "She was a Broadway actress years ago. She lived in the apartment right below this one. We have tea together all the time. Why do you ask?" Dink told his uncle what they'd learned from Roger. "Miss Cornelius might have seen the thief on her balcony," he said. "Maybe she can tell us what he looks like." "Donnie, Miss Cornelius is quite old," his uncle said, "and I'm afraid her eyesight is failing." Uncle Warren looked around his kitchen and sighed. "I should clean up, but I'm exhausted. This mess will have to wait till morning," he said. "Now off to bed, kiddos." "We'll help you tomorrow," Ruth Rose said. "Thank you, my dear. Sweet dreams, everyone," Uncle Warren said as he padded towards the bedroom. "I don't know about you guys," Ruth Rose said, "but I couldn't sleep a wink right now." "Me either," Dink said. The three headed off to the living room. Ruth Rose sat next to Dink on the sofa, and Josh plopped down on the carpet. "I've been thinking," Ruth Rose said. "How many people knew your uncle had a valuable painting in the apartment?" Roger might have known about it," Dink said. Josh sat up. "Of course," he said. "Roger's the crook." Why do you think the kids can't sleep? My guess is because they're so excited or anxious about who the crook might be. Now, they're thinking that it might be Roger. "But he's been at the door all night," Dink said. "That's what he told us," Ruth Rose said. "He could have been lying. Does Roger have the key to this apartment?" "Guys, my uncle and Roger are friends," Dink protested. "Plus, he's worked in this building for ages." "Don't you watch TV?" Josh asked, wiggling his eyebrows up and down. The doorman did it?" Dink laughed. "You're crazy. No way Roger snuck up here and stole that painting." Josh got up and walked into the kitchen. Dink heard the refrigerator door open and close. "Well, who else knew about it?" Ruth Rose asked. "How about Miss Booker?" Josh said when he came back. He was carrying a handful of grapes. "She told us she used to swing on the trapeze. Maybe she climbs up buildings now. Plus, she knew we were all out of the apartment during the block party." Ruth Rose nodded. "She's the building manager, so I'll bet she has all the keys to the apartment. She wouldn't have to climb the building." "But how would she know my uncle even had the painting?" Dink asked. Dink remembered. "Your uncle said one of Miss Booker's jobs is delivering packages," Ruth Rose said. "Maybe she brought the painting up to your uncle. He might have told her what was inside the wrapping, and she might have told Roger, Josh said. Heck, maybe they did it together. Roger could have been on the lookout while she was up here stealing the painting and tossing orange peels all over the place, Dink said. Wouldn't that be kind of dumb? Maybe she did that on purpose, Ruth Rose said. Leaving orange peels on the balcony would have made it look like a crook climbed up the building. Yeah, Josh said, and that would have made us think of someone who didn't have keys. Okay, but what about the juice all over the kitchen? Dink asked. Why would Miss Booker do that? Easy, Josh said. She wanted to confuse the cops. Dink yawned and then stood up and stretched. Well, whoever it was did a good job confusing me. He walked out to the balcony and looked up at the stars high in the sky and made out blinking lights on airplanes. He wondered where the plane was coming from. Josh and Ruth Rose came and stood next to him. I thought of someone else who might have known about the painting, Ruth Rose said. Who? Dink asked. Miss Cornelius, she answered. Dink stared at her. But she's old and can't see well, he said. My uncle told us that a little while ago. He also told us she used to be an actress, Ruth Rose said. Besides, Josh added, you don't need a perfect eyesight to steal your painting. But if Miss Cornelius is a crook, why would she tell Roger she saw someone on the balcony? Maybe she did it to keep anyone from suspecting her, Ruth Rose said. Dink thought for a moment. Okay, but how would she get into my uncle's apartment? Or are you going to tell me she swung on a vine like Tarzan? Josh laughed. I don't know. Maybe she stole a spare key when she was having her tea, he said. But I say, we have a talk with Miss Cornelius tomorrow morning. All right, that's the end of chapter 5, right? I wanted to know, can you answer these questions? Why does Uncle Warren think Miss Cornelius is a bad witness? What were the white splotches in the kitchen? And who do you think committed the crime and why? Today you're going to answer 2 pages, and then I will look at them tomorrow. Your first page looks like this. It's page 9. It says infer. I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't sleep a wink right now. Why aren't the kids tired? So I want you to come up. Why do you think the kids are not tired? And that needs to be written in a complete sentence. This one down here, write the type of figurative language in the following chapter 5 excerpt. Or are they going to tell me she swung on a vine like Tarzan? What is this one right here? Is it a hyperbole, alliteration, a simile, or an onomatopoeia? Remember, if you don't remember what these are, you can always get on your Chromebook and look them up. Reread to clarify. Answer the chapter 5 multiple choice questions. Why does Uncle Warren think Mrs. Cornelius is not a good witness? She is always telling lies. Her eyesight is failing or her hearing is failing. Number 2, what is the cause of the patches of white blotches in the kitchen? Spilled flour, spilled milk, or fingerprint powder? On this page, it says reread to clarify and connect. Complete the chart below. Decide if you think the suspect committed the crime and explain why or why not. Explain your thinking. So on these, you're going to pick the one that you think did the crime and tell me why or why not you think that this person is part of it. So Roger, Mrs. Booker, Mrs. Cornelius, or none of the above, and explain why. Okay, so you get to pick one of those and write in that box why you think they did it. If you do not think, then put why you do not think they did it. All right, that's the end of chapter 5. I will check these tomorrow.